Hey, hey everyone, this is Ian Carlin. Welcome back to the Empty Cup podcast. Now, before we get started with our very special guest, Sensei Ando is back with us. I do have to say, now I have to apologize because if you're going to listen to the audio, you're going to be hearing this twice because on the audio, I kind of like do my sponsors and, promote my books and stuff like that. And then, but I just do the video because I just put it out there. I don't edit it or anything. And I have a lot of people who just watch the video, and so they miss my sponsors and stuff like that. So I do have to say, and again, I apologize to be seeing this twice. I do have to say my new book on health and fitness, Diet Sins, Why Your Diet is Failing and What You Can Do to Fix It is now out. This isn't the book. This is just a piece of paper. And it's the reason why is that it's an ebook. It's on Amazon right now. And it's absolutely free if you're an Amazon Prime user, and if you're not an Amazon Prime user, it's only $2.99. So do yourself a favor and pick it up. I know that a lot of people know this. I lost almost 100 pounds, and I got to tell you that being a martial artist and losing that weight has helped me tremendously. You can still be a great, terrific martial artist and be overweight. I believe you can. But I think that just when you lose that weight, you can't believe how much better you feel and how much better your techniques are and how much better of a performer you are. So show us some love here at the program. You like what we're doing? It's free. I mean, I don't know how better it can get than free, So there we go. All right, so that's going to be the end of that. The end of all the promotions and stuff. Sensei Ando, how you doing, man?
I'm top of the world. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm honored that you made it back on the program. I look at you as somebody who's actually a pretty big name in martial arts.
Wow.
And so I'm like, whoa, he said he'd be back. To get you the first time was like, wow, okay. He said yes. And then oh.
Take it easy. Take it easy. I'm honored to be here. I love talking about martial arts. My wife won't talk about it. Most of the people I know won't talk about it. So when I get a call, hey, do you want to talk about martial arts? I'm here, my friend. So
right
thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I feel the same way. And my wife doesn't really like to talk about martial arts that much too. So it's always great to sit around and chat about martial arts. Well, hey, I have a question for you though. I know you're doing jiu-jitsu too, among all the martial arts that you've done. How's your jiu-jitsu training going?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm having a great time right now. It's been I started that when I was 39 is when I started getting into it. So I was coming in a little later, and
okay.
And for the first year it was kind of like seminars and friends, and just started kicking it up. It was kind of informal. And then when I was 40, I officially signed up over with Higan Machado here in Beverly Hills, and
Wow.
I'm having a really great run. He's a great guy, and he attracts nice people. So that's really what it's all about. I mean, you got to find that kind of academy that's going to meet your energetic needs. Some of these places are really hardcore tournament, and there are a bunch of young bucks in there, and they're just trying to kill you. It feels like maybe they're just trying to kill me. I have that kind of personality. But I'm real lucky. Nice people there, and it meets my needs. Let's put it that way. How are you? How are your fingers? How are you doing?
Excellent. I haven't really been back for a little while. I've kind of been more focusing on teaching my JKD class.
Oh, good.
So and we do go through the part of what I do at Ronin JKD is I go through the at least up to the blue belt curriculum, just so that people can have a basic understanding. They have to have that in order to have a basic understanding of groundwork.
I like that. I think that's a really good requirement. I usually say that to people that I run into too. It's like, look, you don't have to be a BJJ fanatic, but you owe it to yourself as a human being to get in there for at least 6 months, a year. You can get to a blue belt. That was originally my goal. I was like, I'm just going to hang in here. If I can make it to blue belt, just so I can train myself not to do the stupid stuff that everybody who's untrained does. Stick out my arms really straight. If I could just get a couple of smarter habits so I can make it a little difficult for somebody who might know what they're doing and have a big advantage over someone who has no idea what they're doing, that was my original goal. And then, of course, as these things go, when you're a little OCD, once I got the blue belt, I'm like, well, I can't stop now. I need more. I love this stuff. I got to keep going. So there we go.
You got to go. And you have your purple, don't you? Is that correct?
I'm a purple belt for a little while now. I probably will be for a long time. I'm a part-time kind of guy. I'm a hack. It's not my full-time deal, but I'm loving it. At this point, I really don't care. It's just about the experience. It's fun.
Purple's like, I mean, it's like it really is like a black belt. I mean, quite honestly, it takes like 5 years to get your purple belt. I mean, I don't for a lot of people,
Right.
and a lot of people just like five, three on the short end, sometimes like 5 to 6 on the long end,
Right.
to get your black belt in a normal style. If it has any standard of excellence in it at all, it takes about that long.
Right.
So
Of course,
that's quite an accomplishment. Yeah.
For an older guy, yeah. The thing is, I mean, to me, it was always kind of explained. I mean, I know no one has like a unified version of what a black belt is, but a basic black belt, it means you kind of know your basics. That's the idea. You have your foundation. You got over that beginner's hump. So yeah, I mean, even I agree with you. Like a purple belt is kind of like a black belt in other arts. You can throw a punch, you can throw a kick, you can move around a little bit offensively, protect yourself. That's kind of the basics. That's when your learning starts. It's like learning the alphabet or anything else. Now you can go read a book. You shouldn't pat yourself on the back because you got through your basics. You got done with K through 3rd grade. Good for you. You can read and write. Now what are you going to do with that? So yeah, but the BJJ has been great. That foundation, that first 3 to 5 years, boy, that's a real jump in your quality of life. I think just the way you feel around people and the way you connect with people, touch people or allow them to touch you. It's been a really significant period. I recommend it to everybody. Absolutely. Add a little BJJ to your life. I think it helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think this is something that's interesting that I heard, and of course it applies to BJJ, but it applies to all kinds of martial arts. I certainly see it applying to my students, and that is like you can make it to a certain degree. It's applying to me right now. This is part of why I bring it up, because it's also applying to my BJJ, but it also applies to like a lot of other arts. And like you can make it to a certain degree kind of on your strengths, but then you hit a wall and it's just like you have to start to address your weaknesses if you're going to push past that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That
makes sense.
Do you feel like you're hitting that wall at BJJ right now, or do you feel like
I hit a wall immediately when I got to BJJ. I hit a wall right off the bat. It's always been a challenge. Yeah, that's interesting. It's true. I know some people who, again, that depends on what kind of style you pick. If you are a big, heavy set kind of person, you're going to an Olympic Taekwondo school, it may take a while for you to start feeling competent and good. But if you're coming in really light boned and you already have some track experience or something, you're used to getting your knees up and bobbing around, then probably it comes a lot easier, so you can play your strengths there. So yeah, I suppose if you match up your capabilities with the right style, then you can make really quick progress to that first level of success. If you pick an art that doesn't quite suit you, then you may struggle for a long time if you don't quit before you get there. It's really a fascinating mix. Again, we kind of talked about it last time about how you pick a school and how you judge different styles. It's just different needs for different times in your life. Yeah. And if your first deal is that you're heavy and you're overweight, you've been committing diet sins. Get your ebook now, people. If you've been committing diet sins, you have self-consciousness about that. You feel it's holding you back. You're kind of embarrassed. Then you want to find a style that's going to be, a little more cardio, a lot of movement, making you just feel comfortable in your body. But that may have nothing to do with combative skills. That may just be a workout place for you. But then once you shed 50, 60 pounds, you may feel like, hey, now that I feel so great, maybe I would like to go take something a little more combative, a little more, I can just focus on the fighting and not just the balancing and the wind of it, the cardio. So different. That's why I don't put down any style, because it depends on who the person is taking it, what they need at that time, and how much you can get out of it. That's why you've moved through different styles. I move through different styles. I think the longer you live, it's inevitable that you're going to move through different styles or different methodologies, different teachers, because you're a different person and you want different things and need different things. So blah, blah, blah. Sorry, that's my coffee kicking in.
Good. I'm glad it's kicking in. And that was one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about, because you and I have both moved through different styles. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the etiquette of that. Like, I remember when I was younger, like the first, I went from Ishinryu basically, and you talked about this before, and then I went into basically a white dragon martial arts system, which was basically Tang Soo Do with 5 animal forms and Aikido. I'm going to do a video one day on what exactly is white dragon martial arts.
Wow, that's lovely.
Yeah, it was, well, it was a brainchild, and what they tried to do was they tried to like, they wanted like a hard style and a soft style, and then like a passive style and a meditative style. They even had Tai Chi. They kind of wanted it to be a complete thing, and this was before
Mhm.
MMA or anything like that. That was the idea behind the style, but it was basically the two main styles was basically Tong Soo and Five Animal Kung Fu. I mean, that was basically the kind of the clash there, and then later people
Okay.
kind of put in Aikido and stuff like that. But I kind of came in with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I was a little resistant to changing. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I was a purple belt in Ishinru, which means nothing. It's not like a purple belt in a purple belt at that time was like the third rank up. I think it went white,
Okay.
yellow, purple. And it went white, yellow,
All right.
purple. And I was not, I mean, I was not like some awesome Ishinru guy or whatever. But I was still throwing my punch like this, with the vertical fist and with the thumb on top and all this stuff. And
Sure.
they had to,
Sure.
and I looked back on it and I was just like, dude, I was such a dick. I was such an ass. Why? And I see that happening now sometimes. Like a student will come in from like another style,
Sure.
and I'll be like, okay, so we throw our with the chain punching, or the long bridge punch, the straight lead or something like that,
Mhm.
and they'll want to either do boxing or something. And I just when as you go through styles, you have to the etiquette has got to be important. You got to show respect. And I just wanted to know what did you have any trouble with that? When you move through styles, or when people come to you, what's your take on that whole thing?
You said so many things. There's so much I want to talk about there, but let me
Oh, go
try to
ahead.
restrain myself to
Go
the
ahead. You
actual
start
question.
anywhere. You
The
start
hard and
anywhere.
soft thing always drives me nuts. The
Okay.
etiquette thing
Start.
did. I have a problem with that. No, I didn't have a problem with the etiquette because I always believed in the manners of it. Maybe I was just raised well, or the Boy Scouts helped me out, or I liked my first formal art was Taekwondo, so that was always militaristic. So I've always had a yes sir on my tongue, and I've always known my place. If I'm in someone's school, I've always respected that. It's your house, not mine. So I've never had a problem coming in and saying, okay, let's see life your way. That to me is what styles really is all about. If you can let go of who you are, you're kind of wearing someone else's clothes for a little while. You're
Right.
walking in their shoes a little bit. You're taking on their perspective. And that's the best way to figure out whether something they're doing fits your lifestyle or not. If the jacket
Mhm.
fits, then you leave it on, you can walk out. If the jacket doesn't fit, say, you know what, it didn't quite fit. I don't hate the jacket. It's just, it didn't fit me. So,
Yeah.
but the only way you're ever going to know that is if you really just let go of everything that you are in the moment of being presented something. If someone's kind enough to give you that gift of sharing their experience, here's a tip on this armbar. Only an idiot, a self-centered, beeping idiot would sit there going, well, that's not how I do it. Well, my school, we do it differently. Well, let me show you how Marcelo Garcia showed me. It's like, wow, okay, you're not here to learn. There's no empty cup, Mr.
Right.
Empty Cup Podcast. You have to say, even if you think it's ridiculous, I mean, so many times that happens. Maybe some overzealous blue belt comes up to you and says, oh, let me show you how to do that choke. And you're thinking like, come on, dude. It can go two
Right.
ways here. Either he does have a tip and you go, man, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with me. And everybody's a teacher, and I respect that. Or he just starts shooting his mouth off about something he saw on YouTube or something he made up at home and he's never tested it. He's just crazy. And yet, if you let him go and say, well, let me just think about that for a second. All right, you said you put your thumb up. You give yourself thumbs up while you do the armbar. That's your trick, or whatever. Sometimes it might still spark an idea or make you reconsider something you've been doing, and you can't help but go deeper into your own knowledge anyway. So
Mhm.
I have no problem walking into any school with any teacher and any training methodology and just saying, I'm yours. What do you want me to do? You want me to mop the floor? Okay, I'll mop the floor. If you tell me that leads to something, you got it. You want me to
Right.
spin around 10 times and go before I do my punches? I'll try it. Why not?
We'll
I
try
can
it.
always go back to what I do. What's the fear here?
Right.
Just like taking an argument and taking the opposite position, just as the mental exercise of it, you can't help but get better at learning who you are and what you really believe. So I'm all about just, I've never had an etiquette problem with that. I've seen people with that problem. I don't think I've got that problem. Maybe someone else should answer for me. I don't think I've had that problem. But you admit to
Yeah.
purple belt dick. Interesting. Good for you.
Well, I got, I was a purple belt at like 13 years old. And of course,
Oh,
in Ishinru, it was only like, that's only like the third degree up,
sure.
the
Oh,
third
13. I
third
didn't know.
rank.
Okay, well.
And yeah, it was white, yellow, and even they started changing it when I was there. They added an orange and then purple and then blue
Oh,
and then green, then brown, then black. That's kind of how it went. But
okay.
I was already a purple, so they didn't bump me back down. But then I didn't do martial arts really for like a couple years, and then I stepped into the white dragon system, and I was just like, oh, I'm going to show you guys. But I was 16 when I stepped in the white
Oh,
dragon
well,
system, and
that
so
makes sense.
I was, I was very, very arrogant because I mean, obviously, I knew what I was doing.
Absolutely.
I knew some stuff, and I had to get my butt handed to me a few times. But I know that you've had probably students come in who have been arrogant like that.
Well, now that you've said, now I have to completely change my answer, because when you go back to saying 13 years old, well, sure, my first martial art experience, I didn't have the etiquette because I wasn't really a martial artist yet. I had been a Boy Scout, but I was an arrogant Boy Scout. I think I'd been raised well, but I was still very self-centered. So when I first started Taekwondo, I did have etiquette problems there with my teacher, but that was more of an alpha male thing. There was all kinds of, young man angst and who are you to tell me and why should I adopt the military model? So in the beginning, yes, there were definitely etiquette problems, and I went home crushed many times emotionally. But once I got over that hump, and about halfway through that first black belt, that's when my whole life changed. And that's why I'm such a proponent of martial arts, because it took someone who was arrogant and a jerk, which I like to forget about, but you just reminded me. Oh yeah, that's right. Just in case someone else calls in or leaves a comment, like, hey, I knew you back then. You were a jerk. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I was. Right. But I think less so as I've gotten older. I hope less so.
Well,
forgive me. Yeah.
You said something there that you wanted to address, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. You said something about the whole soft style, hard style bugged you kind of thing. So what does it bug you? What's going on there?
Hard and soft. I think that whole argument is a bunch of crap. I think it's a waste of time. Any form thread that goes back and forth between internal, external, hard and soft. What it suggests to me is that whoever is talking about, well, hard this or straight line that, and we're circles and soft, and stop talking right away, because you're already just revealing that you're not that good at anything. What kind of moron would go around saying, well, my style's all straight lines and hard? What? Yeah, right. Well, my style's all soft and circles. What? Right. Because any art you study, if you hang around long enough, you're eventually going to get to both, I believe.
Yes.
You could say, well, look at Shotokan, it's all straight lines and hard. Yeah, bad Shotokan maybe, but if you stick around right from the first katas, there are circular movements. Only an idiot would go into sparring just being hard and straight the whole time. You'll get your ass handed to you if you do that. So very quickly you have to learn to yield sometimes. You learn the same lessons you're going to learn anywhere else. Same with Aikido. It's easy to slam to say, oh, well, it's all soft and circles. No, it's not. You have Idimi techniques where you enter and you go straight in, and then there are Tenkan techniques where you circle out and you yield. So from day one, you're doing both. If somebody has a philosophical bent and they want to just brag about how they're so good at one side or the other, I'm so tough and straight. Well, good for you. But to now deny the other half of the art that you're not paying attention to, that just reveals that you're an idiot. So I hate any kind of style talk that leads to, oh, that's a hard style. That's a soft style. Oh, those are circles over there. Oh, that's a straight line style. Like, no, you're an idiot. You're not paying attention. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
If someone is saying that, then they don't know what they're talking about. So let's just squash the whole conversation. Whatever art you're studying, just go deep into it. Your body only moves so many ways. There are only so many strategies you can employ. And if you hang around long enough and you're open and honest about the results you're getting, you're going to have to use circles and straight lines. You're going to have hard and soft mixed in. It all goes together. Shut up about all the hard and soft stuff, because it drives me nuts.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed is no, it's quite all right. Please, that's why I have you on the show. I want to hear your opinion. But I have noticed that as particularly as like a younger student will choose one way, and then as they get older, as they grow further in that style, they'll start to adopt the aspects of other arts. So like if you look at like a young karate student, for example, like his chamber is normally pretty high, Like he's high, he's very. But if you look at and you go to the older guy, like the guy who's his black belt's all grayed out, his hand's kind of down on his hip, and he puts a little bit more, a little bit more hip movement, into it, and it starts to look more like honestly, it starts to look like more like kung fu. It's like the hard style becomes softer, and then at the same time, you get this guy who's throwing these really gentle punches, just it's just flowing. And then as he starts to get older, more developed, he starts, really pressing that in. And I've noticed that the two styles kind of at the top start to really, really come together. But I was like,
top, yes.
Yeah.
I agree. At the top. Don't listen to the people yelling at the bottom, because those are the people who are clinging to something more out of an insecurity or out of a sense of pride. Like, hey, I didn't have any skills before, but now look, I can do straight and hard. And that becomes their identity. And that's where their self-esteem is built, because they have this one skill set that makes them very happy and seem successful. But again, that's kind of like a young person buying a muscle car and roaring through the streets without a muffler, saying, look at me, I can drive. It's like, yeah, that's great, until you smash into that telephone pole and you have your third accident, rear-ending somebody, and you get another speeding ticket. It's great sometimes, but it's not all the time. And so, yes, at the top, which means you spent time in it, you've gone deeper, you've had more than one experience, you've been outside your dojo, you've sparred other people. Then you go, oh, okay, that's not the only way to drive. That's not the only car I can choose to drive. And then you become a little wiser. So that's, I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah, and along that line, there's these two theories that I've been on both sides of it, and that is like there's a theory that says like, oh, your style has the answer. If you just stick with it long enough, you'll discover the answer in your style. And then there's the hey, my style doesn't have the answer. I need to go look at this. And of course, you have the extremes on both sides. You have the one guy who's, I will only and ever do Wing Chun Kung Fu. No other style ever will ever cross into this, and my students better not do anything. And then on the other side, you have the character on the other side, which is, I did Wing Chun for like a week, and then I did karate for a week, and then now
I've created my own hybrid system that takes the best of all arts that I don't know.
Right. I think that there can be a point where you kind of like, hey, I need to go look somewhere else, and being realistic with your martial art, with the limitations of your martial art. It's not that you couldn't find the answer in it, but it's just like I had this experience with when I started to kind of come out of Systema, because the one big door that opened up with Systema with me was that it got me involved in ground stuff. Before that, I hated groundwork. I hated it. I loathed it. I thought it was stupid. I'll just hit them on the way in, despite the fact that I got taken down, even after I was in advanced rank. I hated it. But then I started doing Systema, and we did a lot of stuff on the ground. I'm like, oh, well, this is kind of cool. And then when I got back to the States, I was just like, who does groundwork the best? There's a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu school here in town. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go do that for a while. Who does the kicks the best? I think what do you think? As far as like choosing your options. Am I making any sense? I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, I'm sorry. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, look, it's a personal journey, and you have to come back to what is it you wanted.
Yeah.
It's easy to say like, well, hey, you have to keep pressure testing your art. Hey, you have to keep checking it out to see if it's real. What the heck is real? What does that even mean? What is real? Can you get your techniques to work against most people most of the time? I guess that's the goal. Even in a life and death situation, multiple attackers, weapon, can you stay focused, keep your cool, and give it your best shot to survive that? I guess that's the gold standard for self-defense.
So let me narrow it down. It just kind of occurred to me.
Sure.
In your opinion, Sensei Ando, when is it okay to stop doing this art that you're involved in and then look to another art, say, I need the answer from that art? When is that happen for you?
When it doesn't match your goals. That's what I mean. You have to know, why am I doing this? Like I said, if you're someone who just wants to get into shape, Well, I'll take another example. We already did the out of shape one. Say that you're someone who's just kind of shy and you really believe in the idea that martial arts can help empower you to stand up and speak up for yourself. You like that aspect of martial arts. Something about that. You believe martial arts can give that to you. And you got a couple of different schools in your town. You go over to maybe a Krav Maga school, and let's just say it's a kind of program where first week immersion type of training, they have 3 people with those shields and they hold you down on the ground, they pin you and they shout at you and they get up and go, go. And it's all very encouraging. But for someone who's just coming out of their shell for the first time, who can't even speak up for themselves, that's way over the top, emotionally challenging. That's not going to be comfortable for them. Whereas maybe there's another school down the street that doesn't even do sparring. Maybe it's like, or every Friday they have a sparring class if you want to go. And it's a non-sparring curriculum, but you can learn some forms, you can get some pads. It's a slower pace maybe. And that is exactly what that person needs at that time. My goal is just to kind of breathe better and speak a little stronger and stand up a little straighter and just kind of learn to start moving my body around with some confidence. That might be the perfect school. And someone else is going to drive by and think, well, that's a McDojo. They don't do anything there. They're not hard asses like I am. It's like, yeah, but that's because that's not what they're there for. That guy's there for this other thing. When they get that, then it's going to be another goal. If they accomplish that and say, hey, you know what? I do feel stronger now. I've been here for 8 months and I really feel confident in my body now and my voice. I want another challenge. I think it's time for me to spar, and this school doesn't offer that. So I'm going to have to go find another school now. So either both schools or leave that school. So I don't think it's a mystery. I think it starts with, what do you want? Who's providing what you want? Go give it a try. If they're not exactly what you thought, then you can either leave, or maybe you'll find out that what they're offering is actually what you do need. You didn't know about it, but then you learned, like, you know what? I hated this at first, but now that I'm here, I realized I hated it because I really need it. If you're honest with yourself, that's usually where the best discoveries are made, right? You didn't want to do groundwork. I put it off until I was like 39. So there was something in there that needed to be addressed. And now that I've done it, I can't stop talking about it because it's changed my life for the better. Once again, martial arts, every time I think, well, martial arts changed my life for the better, I'll just stay right here now. Whoop. But then I found this other style that also changed my life and made my life better. Whoop. Here's another style that just changed my life and made my life better. There's just no end to it as far as I can tell. So I think that's the answer. What do you want? And you change the style when you're not getting what you want.
Right. And at the same time too, you got to be tough with stick it out. Don't be one of these people. This is just for the people listening, obviously not for you. It's just like, because I've met so many people who've been like, this not for you, but stuff you already know is what I meant. This.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I've met so many people who's just like, oh, I did that. Well, how long did you do it? Oh, I did it for a week.
Yeah, well,
I was like, well, give it a little bit more of a chance. You
absolutely.
I tried it. It's like stick in there. Stick with it.
But that goes for anything. Piano lessons, you name it. Language lessons. How many people start something or set a New Year's resolution and it's gone within 2 weeks? That's just human nature. That's not special to martial artists. A lot of people talk about stuff, they don't do it. That's a human nature problem there. So,
right. I won't even make a comment on a martial art, quite honestly, unless I've really done it for at least a while. At least I did this Krav Maga evaluation of Krav Maga on my vlog, not my podcast, but I have the martial vlog. A lot of people don't know that. It's just exclusive to YouTube, where I just kind of talk a little bit about stuff that doesn't, either is only really a part of the program. And I went there for a good month, every day, like 4 days a week for a month. So I had a pretty good grasp of what they did, and I enjoyed my time over there. And they treated me with absolute respect. But to go for like a week, I wouldn't have got anything out of it. You stick with it. Stick with it for a while.
Well, like a person. You meet someone for the first time. What do you know about them? You meet them. If you know someone for a month, what do you know about them? You know someone for 5 years. That's different than 10 years, 20 years. It takes time to see the pattern. It takes time to grow with them. It takes time for you to see how you change in their company. It's a process. So that's why, same thing with like a marriage or something. I know people who get married 3 or 4 years, divorce, start another marriage, divorce, start another marriage, divorce. Right. And then they think they understand relationships. They think they understand what loyalty means, and they have all these other words. But no, not really. I've been with my wife for 27 years. And that is something that you cannot replicate with anybody in 5 or 10 years. You have to do 27 years to know what 27 years means and what happens to you and what that feels like in a relationship. And same with the martial art. I mean, there are some martial arts that I only studied for, a shorter period of time, 4 or 5 years, versus Kung Fu now over 20 years. So yeah, I can go make a comment about Taekwondo, but is it a fair comment? Well, it's fair for someone who did it for 4 or 5 years. Can I make a comment about my particular brand of Kung Fu? Sure. I'm over 20 years now, but it won't be as smart or as wizened an opinion as it will be in 30 years. So yeah, you got to stick with it to know what the heck you're talking about. Why would you listen to somebody who's only been on dates and has never been married about relationships? What are they going to tell you? You've never been married more than 3 years. Why are you giving dating advice and marriage advice? It doesn't make sense.
Because they know a lot of married people. That's why.
Well, that's like saying I know a lot of martial artists, therefore I should teach martial arts. It's like, what are you talking about?
That's exactly the point. It's just like I've seen people like that. It's just like, I've seen a lot of Kung Fu movies. So, I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you how to do the eye pluck.
Nah, yeah. Well, hey, don't put down that eye pluck. That saves many lives. But I'm planning on that. You will be eyeless if you attack me, my friend. You will be blind.
Right.
That's why I even like to talk about styles. That's another one that just kills me on forums and chat rooms and all that stuff. Do they still have chat rooms? I haven't been on there, but on comments. People who make any kind of comment about any style. Yeah. Again, it just drives me nuts because you threw out like, well, a typical student in karate. What karate are you talking about? Karate is a general term. So is Kung Fu. There's Okinawan karate. There's Japanese karate. Every single teacher has a methodology within that style of karate. So what the heck is anybody talking about? Well, yeah, Taekwondo does this, and oh, yeah, Judo does that, and oh, yeah, Kung Fu is this. What are you, crazy? If everything was the same in Kung Fu, then everybody wouldn't be backbiting and hating each other within the Kung Fu community. It's not like they're all one big opinion group. Everybody's got their own thing, which is why I like the old style, like in some of the karate styles that were named after people, not named after like institutions, right? Shotokan was kind of a catch-all phrase for Gichin Funakoshi, his brand of karate. Although he himself said there shouldn't be a name on it, it should just be karate. I don't like necessarily branding it. But, they go back to like Matsumura, or you go back to, there are specific family names, just like with Kung Fu, attached to the style. So, I'm not just learning how to fight. I'm learning the way that guy fights. And then that immediately frees you to understand, like, it's an individual opinion. It's an individual journey, which then gives me the freedom to do it my way. I think there's something freeing about that. Something got weird when martial arts styles got named just kind of a generic, institutionalized thing. Taekwondo. It's not this guy's Taekwondo, John Brown's Taekwondo. It's Taekwondo. So now we're all serving this large idea in the sky where we're all trying to move up in our lives to match this objective goal, which is the opposite of art. You're supposed to be learning about yourself and finding out what your strengths and weaknesses are, which are absolutely not going to be the same as your students. You've got one student who weighs 115 pounds, another student weighs 225 pounds, men, women, aggressive, passive, happy, depressed, self-defeating, optimistic. You got the whole rainbow of flavors in there. And you can't possibly have one methodology that's going to appeal to everybody. Your opinion, just like you're not going to agree on food, you're not going to agree on movies, you're not going to agree on politics, you're not going to agree on religion. So why would you be agreeing on punching and kicking and favorite takedowns and best chokes? And we're all going to be different. The best you can do as a teacher is offer a forum, a safe place for people to experiment. You can guide, you can add on, you can keep them safe, you can create a progression of experiences that help them learn more about themselves. But the greatest blessing at the end of that day is that, I always thought if you're going to hand someone like a first level black belt, whatever you want, if you want to do ranks at all, okay, that means you've learned kind of the basics of what I think is important. But at some point, you will graduate from me, and your final project is to show me your kata, show me your curriculum, show me what you've learned about yourself. Now name it yours and take it somewhere and you go teach it. Don't call it mine anymore. Now it's yours. So go spread that and help other people find their style. That I think would be like the best goal.
Well, we're going to start the Sensei Ando school. No, I'm just kidding. That's just the opposite of everything you just said. No, here's the interesting fact. I just did a podcast, last couple podcasts where we talked about the pros and strengths, the pros and cons of training JKD. And one of the cons and this is kind of interesting, is a lot of people in JKD are trying to look like Bruce Lee.
Yes.
And and a lot of people, and this happens all, a lot of people in Wing Chun are trying to replicate Yip Man. I mean, that's the standard. But if you look at Bruce Lee was not trying to create other Bruce Lees. He was trying to create the best you that you could be, the best fighter you could be. Yip Man, was through a system, of course. It was through a set of techniques that he thought were techniques that served him. And Yip Man wasn't trying to create another Yip Man. Yip Man was through Wing Chun was trying to create just good fighters.
Isn't Wing Chun itself also a name of the female? It was inspired by. Yeah. Also a name.
Yeah. There's well, I'm sure you know about
the legend goes.
It was either a woman or the hall that they were developing the style in the temple. They call it the Wing Chun Hall, and then one of the guys escaped and then named the girl Wing Chun or something like that. Yeah, I mean, there's about 20 different legends as far as that goes. But yeah, of course, the name of it.
Which again, but to me, if presuming that's kind of true, to me again, that's an interesting idea, because Wing Chun, if you follow the legend as much as I know it, was created for a very specific purpose and with a specific timeline. It was it meant to be like a short system, right? It wasn't supposed to be like a 30-year system. It was supposed to be a quickly learned system. So it was kind of bare bones. Let's get to the basics. What are the most important things you need to know? It wasn't supposed to have a complete ground fighting system and a complete weapon system and a complete, whatever. It was very specific goals with a small amount of time to train. And that goes back to saying, well, if you know what you want and you can find someone who can provide it, that might be really appealing to someone. So, I mean, there's a lot of haters of Wing Chun in the world. But again, that's, to me, it's like, but if you have no martial art experience, there's so many good principles in Wing Chun. I mean, you can't argue with structure and central line. There's beautiful things that other styles would agree with. But then maybe the problem is like, but after 5 years, but after 10 years, but after 15 years, like, okay, well, maybe you don't see the depth. Of course, you can always get better at those skills. But I can understand how someone might think, but I wanted more than that. When do I get to do my submission art on the ground? Say, well, we don't really have that. Well, we can make it up. We can try to apply it. But again, it's a specific style for kind of a specific person or a specific need. And that's what that style is for. So that's cool, because that's kind of defined. So many styles just don't have that sense of purpose at the beginning of their founding. It's just sort of like, well, here it is. I mean, some sports styles are easier that way. Like if you say MMA nowadays, if you consider that kind of its own style, if it follows the rules of, the unified rules or whatever they have nowadays, again, that's cool, because there's a specific rule set that we all have to create within. And now you can create that style within those limits, and it meets a specific need to knock out people or submit people in these types of rounds, one-on-one with a ref and cage and this, particular gloves, bare feet, no jacket. There's a whole list of conditions that you can then create the style within. And I think that's kind of cool, because, again, it gets kind of strange when you just say Shotokan. All right, well, what was the goal of Shotokan? I'm not sure. I think it was to build character in colleges at first. Then it became a sport somehow. Okay, now there's a sport version of it, and kata competition. And okay, but what's the purpose? It can be anything you want now. So that's where you start getting differences of opinion. Well, we like the sport aspect. Well, we like the character building. Well, we think there should be full contact. Well, we don't. That's awful. So now you have division within the same style, because there are different goals within the same style. But Krav Maga is pretty much set up. Well, nowadays you see a lot of that fitness advertising, and they're kind of all combined with young girls sweating, and it's all kind of fitness oriented, the marketing that I see. But originally, again, military, 2-year service. It's kind of like your basic training. You need to take someone out really fast, weapons, heavy. It makes sense. There's parameters there, or like any of the old, World War II combative stuff, all that stuff. It's like, okay, you got soldiers, that they're going to be dudes. They're going to be this old. They're going to have this kind of strength level probably. They have this much time to train. They need to know bayonets. They need to know rifles. They need to know a couple of disarms. They need to know a couple of chokes and sentry takeouts or whatever. I love that. It makes life so easy when there's like a structure and a condition set to create the style. For everyone else, it's a little bit harder. And that's where you have to stick it out, because something like my style, like with Kung Fu, there is no opening mission statement. Like, okay, the purpose of the style is specifically this. It's just like BJJ too, or non-competitive BJJ. It's just an art, and you just get in wherever you can. You float around. You start picking up stuff. It's meant to be kind of like a lifelong journey, and as you go, it'll become different to you, and it'll be richer, and you'll know depth of this technique, and you kind of get away from that technique because your body can't do it anymore, and It's a life experience. And that's kind of what I'm interested in. But most people don't stick that out or see the value in, oh, Kung Fu. What do you mean you got to be in a horse stance for 3 years? Like, well, yeah, you won't see that value if you're in the military and you need to be out in combat in a year. You're not going to see that value if you just want to get in shape and have some fun and get out on a couple nights a week. Yeah, then sitting in the corner doing horse stance for 3 years, that's the opposite of what you were looking for. But if your goal is like, I want to do an art for the rest of my life, I'm willing to pay my dues now so that things that might start paying off 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I'll put that investment in now. Then that's the perfect art. I'm willing to sit in that horse stance. I'm willing to throw billions of punches and do odd things that are easy to make fun of now, but the payoff comes so much later, most people never get it. So again, different strokes for different folks. That's okay.
So let me ask you a kind of a personal question about your own journey.
Oh, no, you don't.
No, it's going to be a good question.
Okay.
I've had to struggle with it before too, because I have some, a large Kung Fu background, a large karate background, but I've had certain instances in my life where I was kind of shook into the core about like what worked, what didn't work, that kind of thing. Like when I was a black shirt in Wing Chun Kung Fu, and I got taken to the ground by a purple belt. I was an advanced student. I'd already spent 2 years in JKD, and I was an advanced student in Wing Chun, and I got taken to the ground, told my whole life I didn't need any groundwork, if you just hit them on the way in. Did you go through any experience like that? Did you have any type of like where you learned something that was so like that kind of shook kind of your foundations at all? That you then applied to build up a better foundation. Like I didn't abandon Wing Chun. A lot of people think I have. I still do Wing Chun, but like there was something that happened, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this, and now I'm going to make my Wing Chun Kung Fu better as a result. Did you have any experiences like that in your martial career?
I get what you're saying. I'm going to say no as my first answer. If I ever had a failing or lost a clash or a sparring match or something, I always blame myself. It was my failure to, if someone's coming in to do a double leg on you and you got taken down, it's not that you couldn't have punched him in the face or gotten out of the way or sprawled or stayed on your feet. There was a failure on your part to stop him. That's all. So you don't necessarily have to throw out the whole style and say, well, this sucks because I couldn't stop a double leg. Let's be clear. You couldn't stop the double leg. There are other people who could do Wing Chun who probably could have punched him in the face or gotten out of the way or sprawled and stayed on their feet. So I never take that kind of thing. I don't blame styles for my own problems. In Taekwondo, back in the day when I was younger, a lot of head kicks, high kicks, spinning kicks, fancy kicks. And if I fail to land a high kick, that is not the style's problem. That's my problem. I didn't set it up right, because you can still see fancy high kicks successfully landed with knockouts in the UFC and so-called, more realistic looking, hard hitting styles. So that's another thing that gets me going. Well, what's a real technique? What's not? What really works on the streets and what doesn't? And I just think it's such a flawed question because, for instance, I think about this stuff a lot. So this one came to me the other day. You watch a boxing match. And you got 12 rounds. Let's say it goes the distance, 12 rounds. Now, in that fight, how many punches were thrown in that fight? You got to a decision in a fight. Hundreds and hundreds of punches were thrown. Nobody got knocked out. Nobody got stopped. Does this mean that punches don't work in the real world? Does this mean that punches are ineffective and low probability techniques?
Yeah.
Of course not. It just means nobody successfully landed the big punch to stop the other guy. That's all it means. So when people say things like, well, wrist locks don't work in the real world and blah, 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 blah. Well, how many wrist locks have you seen attempted in the UFC? Where are the stats on how many punches have been thrown and how many stoppages came as a result of those punches? How many of that guillotine chokes were tried and how many were landed successfully? How many head kicks were tried? How many were landed successfully? Now you can have an intelligent argument. But I'll bet you'll find that of all the techniques, there are more punches thrown than anything. And you'll probably also find that's the least percentage-wise most successful technique. That doesn't mean you don't practice punches. They still work great when they work, but you have to really do a lot of training to figure out how to make them work. So to me, it's not about the style. It's about the person doing the style.
Yeah, I see it. If I can push back just a tad, I mean, I agree. I do. I mean, I have seen my share of people who, Wing Chun didn't fail you. You failed Wing Chun. I've seen that happen. But then I've seen also where, I mean, geez, how many times does the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu people have to win before you
Oh,
realize,
are they
hey,
dominating in UFC? I wasn't aware of that. I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. Have they
not
won
now, but
recently? I'm sorry. I didn't know.
at the beginning, though, you know, I
Oh
mean, it
yeah,
did
yeah.
change the world. It did change the world,
Of
though. I
course it
mean, it
did.
did.
I'm doing
It did.
BJJ. I love BJJ. I get it.
Right, right. And to me, it was just like it kind of. I've said this before, and it's not that I've, like I said, it's not that I've abandoned Wing Chun, and it's not that, you know, theoretically I could not have hit the guy on the way in, but that's a lot of theory. You know what actually happens when, you know, you take 10 Wing Chun guys and 10 BJJ guys, and 10 of them go for the full double leg takedown or a single leg takedown, and you've got 9 of them who get taken down and locked out, and one of them, are you going to say, oh, I'm going to follow that guy in Wing Chun because, you know, that was the one exception?
But let's be fair. Again, it's not about you failing Wing Chun. Before you got taken down, how much of your training was spent on takedown defense?
A little.
Right, right. So
Yeah, very little.
Wing Chun you didn't sign up for Wing Chun, and they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to practice chain punching. We're going to practice angles, shifting, and takedown defense. They never promised you they were going to practice that. So that's on you as a human being to know, you know what, I should probably learn how to stop a football guy from tackling me on the ground.
Right.
That's your failing. Wing Chun didn't promise you that.
Let me ask you this. If somebody said, though, that they were going to show you takedown defenses, and then it didn't work, then at that point, would you say, oh, that the style then is ineffective, or
how could you? Just like I said, if you miss a punch, that doesn't mean whoever showed you how to punch was wrong. You just didn't throw your punches well. Look, the best people in the world, the greatest BJJ champions, still lose. They still get tapped. Does that mean all of their techniques are no good? No, it means that somebody beat them that day. They made a mistake. Whoops, they slipped up. They lost the grip. They didn't get the angle they wanted. They lost pressure.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
I mean, it's not rocket science, man. It's just fighting, and nobody gets 100%. So that's another odd, you know, thing. Oh, if I just find the right style, then I'll be bulletproof, and nothing will ever bad happen to me. It's like, what are you, crazy? It's a fight. First, it's a fight. Your styles are just different entry points to start prioritizing. Okay, well, we believe starting with grappling. Here would be an argument that might be worth happening. That might be worth having. If you have a young child, it's your kid, you don't want them to get hurt. You know, as a human being, they could get stabbed, they could get choked, they could get tackled, they could get punched, they could get kicked in the head, they could get pushed downstairs. Lots of dangers out there in the world from a physical fighting standpoint. So you have this young child who has no training at all. What's the first thing you teach him? That might be the first argument towards what style is the best, or what's the most valuable style, or the most important style. What's the first thing you teach your son or your daughter? Let's make it daughter. What's the first thing you would teach your daughter? Is it going to be what the Wing Chun people decided? If it was, you know, if you want to go with the legend, and there's a young girl betrothed to this guy, and she's got to fight him off. I love that story. It's cool.
Right.
All right, so this young girl, you got a year. You know this bad guy's coming. Let's say you could predict she's going to go off to college someday. You know someone's going to attack her. Let you know it. What's the first thing you're going to show her? That's probably a good style to start with right there. So I don't know if you have an answer for that. Let me just ask you, what would be, if your young daughter, what would you teach her first, just for fun?
What would I teach her first? I would probably teach her, I would teach her what I do right now. I mean, because I mean, we all kind of put together what we think is the best. You know, styles become personal. And so I would teach her a kind of a cross between like a JKD with
too much. Wait, now don't answer in a style. Give me a technique. Okay. What's literally the first thing you would say? Do this. If you knew she was going to get in a fight in an hour. Okay. What's the first thing you would tell her to do?
Enter into chain punching. To be ruthless. Just pop that guy's face like it was nothing. You know. Don't hold back. Don't sit in your Franken Chun stance. I'm talking enter in, pop, 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 as much as you possibly can. 1,000 punches. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do 1,000 punches today on the bag to the face.
Headhunt, charge in, attack. Don't defend. Don't yield. Don't get fancy. Don't look for throws. Just attack and punch that guy in the face as many times as you can, screaming like a crazy person until they leave you alone. Is that fair?
until they're gone. If I was, one technique I could do, yes.
So sign her up for Krav Maga or Wing Chun, that's good. And again, so now think about that. That's exactly what leads someone. That's apparently the people who did Wing Chun decided the same thing. Like, okay, guy's bigger than you, he's tougher, he's older. We have no time to train. We got this. We got a year or an hour or whatever it is. Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I can see why. If a Krav Maga, I'm not a Krav Maga guy, but when I see videos and stuff, it's a lot of hammer fists and punching to the face and aggressive and yelling and going after. Same answer that you just came up with. Same answer that Wing Chun came up with, and I think that's fair. So that's a good something to keep in mind, because again, it's just about defending ourselves. Martial arts in its purest form, the character building and all that stuff. Of course, if you have a 5-year-old kid going into a martial arts school, that's what I do for a living. I usually don't say, "Oh, hi, Mom. Yeah, you can drop him off here. Yes, we're going to take care of him. It's going to be safe and age appropriate. Okay, little Johnny, here's your first lesson. I want you to attack that thing and kill it until it stops moving. Attack, attack."
Right.
And yet, if it's my kid and someone's hurting him, well, that's kind of where you start, because that's got the immediacy of, like, you're going to have to fight right now. But if you have time to understand that you're probably not going to be in a fight, it's probably not going to happen. We're living in relatively safe times. You're 5 years old. You're probably going to be okay for a while. It's more important you learn how to stand up, look people in the eye, use your words to tell people how you're feeling. Don't keep secrets. Let your parents know what's going on in your life. That's going to take you farther and make you kind of bully-proof to begin with, because you're not going to look like someone to get picked on in the first place. That's a more interesting project to prevent violence instead of just deal with the violence. So now we've reframed the question. Like, well, what's the first thing you teach your kid? Well, we presumed, I gave you the question, like, they're going to be in a fight. Well, that's different than saying, well, they probably don't get it. They haven't been in a fight yet. You've not been in many fights in your real life. So you know what? The more important thing is that you learn how to take care of your body, how to be nice to people, how to make friends, how to tell other people to back up if they're being mean to you. That's way more important. It will come in way handier almost every day of their life. So that's where you start. A different set of needs, a different set of techniques, so therefore a different style, a different entry point to this project. Down the road, we will get to punching someone in the face like a crazy person, but today we'll start with this. So that might be a nice.
And that question too would change. I mean, at first it was just like, this person's going to get into a fight in the next day or so. What would you practice? If I knew that they were going to get into a fight in the next month, what would I practice? If I knew they were going to get into a fight in the next year, what would I practice? That might change a little bit over. If I know she was going to college in the next 3 years and I wanted her to be able to defend herself, what would I? What would I do? That might change some things.
Absolutely. What if you knew you were going to be in a fight when you're 80 years old? What if you knew you could see the future? You knew that there were going to be 3 guys who are going to kick in your door when you're 80 years old, and they're there to kill you and rob you. So if you start preparing now, what would you start doing? That's another question.
Right.
And I think different answers. You're not maybe not doing head kicks.
I don't know, man. I plan to live to 140. So
right on. I recommend carrying a weapon.
Yes. Yeah. I'm with, I don't know if you listen to Bulletproof Radio, but I'm with Dave Asprey. I'm definitely planning on living as long as I can and staying as healthy.
He's got the secrets. I'll check that out. I didn't know.
As long as possible. He's no sponsor of the show either.
Okay. Well, that's the Bulletproof Coffee guy?
Yeah, the Bulletproof Coffee guy. Okay. I just like his philosophy and, a lot of stuff, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah. But if I was 100, if I knew I was going to get in a fight at 139, yeah, for sure. It would be definitely get the guy. No, I'm teasing with you, obviously. So,
sure.
Let me then ask you, like, in your curriculum that you have, student comes in, you say, oh, we're going to get to the fighting stuff for sure. You start on, I'm sure even that depends where you start them. And I like what you said. Let me step this back, because I've thought about this before, because it's kind of coming up and doing different styles. I'm like, they're even when you look at a style like Wing Chun, that I'm very familiar with, there's no one place to start. Like some people start with chain punching. Some people, obviously there's places not to start. I am not going to start somebody on BUG who just walks through the door and doesn't have, any experience. But like, I might start somebody on Pak Sao, or I might start somebody on Lop Sao. There's no like one way to teach this thing. It's like a pie, it's just like, okay, I've got this pie. Now, which side am I going to serve? Depends on what side you want. You know, it's like I'm going to cut it this way. You know what? Some schools, they like to cut the pie. They want you to have the whole pie, and they're going to cut it in 14 equal pieces. And you get another school, and they're like, you know what? I mean, we're going to cut our pies in fourths. It's going to take you longer, but we're going to cut it in fourths. Does this, you know what I mean? Does this depend on who comes through your door?
Well, of course, every student is different, right? Like we said before, everyone's got their own set of needs, and you have to approach different. I always think that everyone has their own special need. We tend to now think about special needs kids versus what mainstream kids or normal kids. But to me, everybody's got a special need. There are certain jokes you would tell in front of one person, but not another. Some people you have to be a little more patient when they're telling a story. Other people you can kind of trash talk while they're talking. Everybody's got a special set of ways that you should communicate with them if you want to be effective and heard. And you want to be able to give them something and make them feel that they're being heard too. So in that sense, but at the end of the day, you have to have a curriculum. You have to have something organized that we're all going to do together today. You can't have 30 private lessons going on at the same time. So a private lesson would be a different situation than a group class. In a group class, you have to have a plan. So the curriculum, if I think any curriculum, should be designed on those things that you think are the most important for most people, most of the time. And that's what I'm going to serve you first. That's the first piece of pie. Thanks for bringing up pie. Woo! It's
Thanksgiving.
Pie season, you know. Pie season goes from July 4th to July 3rd every year. And, and we're right in the middle of pie season. So it's just what works most of the time for most people on most days against most people. And that's where we go. And so for us, like with kids, it's going to be about using your words, how you stand, how you look at someone, just to kind of let someone know, like, hey, I don't like that. Back up. Stop. Leave me alone. And I think that's important for adults too. So really the trick with my kids' curriculum, it's the same curriculum I would give to an adult if we had time to go through a long process of training, which again would be different than some weekend seminar where someone just wants to learn a couple of quick moves just to kind of get somebody off of them. Well, then you're already kind of bypassing a lot of your other life events, how you stand, how you talk, what kind of relationships you're in. There are bigger things that you can do to prevent violence usually. But if you're just going to get right to the chase and go, okay, like a military situation, like, okay, guys, I don't care how you talk to people. I don't care what, you know, how you're standing. Here comes some guy with a knife and a gun. We need to figure out how to kill that guy right now. That's a different, you know, different project. So again, that's stuff. And you're also just talking about methodology, the different pie cuts. That's your methodology, and that's going to be your personal decision. There's no right or wrong. It's just you trying your best to share what works for you, what you think is important. And that's the gift of being a teacher. You're trying, or that's the teacher's duty, is to present your material as a gift. Like, guys, this happened to me. I got hit in the head so hard. I don't want this to ever happen to you. So here's what I learned. Hey, guys, I got taken down. I thought I could stand on my feet, but I was a little too high, and I didn't see that level change. And so here's what we're going to do tonight. I don't want anyone here to ever get knocked down on the ground like that. That's what you're doing. You're there with like almost tears in your eyes saying, this happened to me. Let me share this with you so it doesn't have, so the bad stuff doesn't happen to you. And that becomes your methodology. Somewhere there's a Wing Chun teacher or a JTD teacher who never did get taken down, and he's still teaching the same thing, saying, well, we're just, no, you can punch him in the face. No, just knee him in the head when he tries to drop down for that tackle. And in his world, he's doing his service. He's doing his students a good service. He is giving that gift because it's never happened to him. The first time he gets stabbed, you'll probably put knife moves into your curriculum. The first time you get taken down, if you're smart, you'll probably start adding some takedown defense in there. So again, the methodology, the style, and then the methodology are just reflections of who's teaching it. I was lucky that in my Taekwondo school, the guy had been a prison guard and been in security work. And so he was also high level in arnis. So he was very fluent with knives and sticks, and he'd been there, done that kind of thing. So his Taekwondo was always informed by this whole other life experience that a lot of maybe some Taekwondo instructors don't have. So maybe one guy's just a sport Taekwondo guy. So for him, it's just really important to have cardio, go, 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 and hip flexibility, go, go, go. Whereas my Taekwondo school was saying, okay, so let's pretend the guy's got a knife. Let's figure out what our footwork's going to be. I can't come in like an Olympic guy and go boom, boom, boom. Here's what I'm going to do. Totally different Taekwondo experiences because the teacher is sharing a different part of himself.
Yeah, right. Well, cool. Well, we're about at the end of the program here. I already asked you your top 3 tips, so I won't do that again, but I will ask if you have any concluding thoughts on our discussion today, on our martial arts discussion today.
Sure. Well, first, thanks again for having me back. That's the highest
Oh.
compliment I can imagine. You rolled the dice on the first one, and to ask me back, wow, I was really impressed by it. Thank you so much. I'm honored. Keep up your good work, by the way. I love your show.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, you know, the advice is just this: just go do stuff. Just go. Don't think so much. Don't put down other styles. Don't worry about this and that. Just go have experiences, and then be honest about them. If you're getting something out of the experience, if someone calls your school a McDojo, just shut up.
Shut the front door.
Shut the front door. Shut the dojo front door, and just do what you're supposed to be doing. Keep your eyes on your own work. That's always a good rule from school. Keep your eyes on your own work. Oh, so many times you take a test and the guy's 3 questions ahead of you. Now you feel like you're behind. No, you're not. You take the test at your pace. You look over the other guy's paper. He's 3 questions behind you, and you think, oh, I'm so smart, I'm ahead of this guy. Don't worry about that. They're both in their own journeys over there. You don't know what their strategies and knowledge is. Just do you. Whatever school you're in, just give it your all, to give it a fair chance. If you're getting positive results out of it, stay there. Go deep with it. Stick with it, like you said. And then when that moment comes, when you feel like, you know, there's something else in my heart telling me I need something here. If you can supplement with another style, then supplement. If you have to leave that school to make the time to go find the other school and scratch that itch, then by all means do that. And please don't worry about the politics of it and the hurt feelings of it, because anybody who's good, any teacher who is wise will totally understand what you're going through. It's only the small-minded, insecure jerks who maybe up till then were very helpful to you, but now have a real block. They're not as mature as you now. They're not seeing the big picture. I don't wish them any harm, but they can't continue the journey with you. The teachers that I left originally, I'm still friendly with. A couple of them. Some have passed on, you know, some I've just lost touch with just because of time. But I'm really proud of the fact that even the styles that I left, you know, they're in their 60s, but we can still email. I can still visit them when I'm in town. We can still train together and kind of trade notes. To me, that's the real proof. Again, like a long marriage of knowing who was the real deal. The teacher won't talk to you anymore. You know what? You're better off not being there anymore. The teacher who's still, hey, I'd love to see what you're up to now. Hey, yeah, let's get together. Let's trade notes. That's a real deal. That's a real martial artist. That's a real student. That's a real nice human being. So just have your journey and look for those good people who are supportive and helpful, and stick with them. Double down on them. Just be you. Double down on you. Don't worry about everybody else.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the program again. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You're a wealth of knowledge, and you're a challenging individual as well. So I appreciate that.
Bring it.
So stick with us for just a second. I'll talk with you off the air. I'm going to close the program down. Hey, everyone, you've been listening to the Empty Cup podcast. If you like what you heard, please do me a favor and share this on your favorite social media, and write a review and subscribe and all that good stuff. And don't forget to get your copy of Diet Sins. It is on Amazon exclusively. So go over there and pick that up. And also, you know, visit Sensei Ando at his podcast, the Happy Life. Yes, yeah, Happy Life podcast. Don't forget to listen to that podcast as well. So thanks, everyone. Until we meet again, hey, keep your gloves up.